Tom and his friends were hiking near an old frozen lake, its surface untouched, smooth like glass. The locals had warned them, never step onto that ice. But of course, they didn't listen. Tom laughed as he stepped forward. See? Nothing's... The ice cracked. His stomach dropped as something moved beneath the surface. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. Then he saw the hands. Dozens of them, pale, bloated, clawing upward. Something was under the ice, watching, waiting. His friend Mia screamed as one of the hands shot up and slammed against the ice. The face of a woman appeared beneath it. Her mouth stretched too wide, eyes hollow and black. Tom scrambled back, slipping, heart pounding. The hands pressed harder, fractures webbing across the ice. Then the whisper came.
Join us.
The ice beneath Tom's feet gave way. He plunged in, the freezing water swallowing him whole. He thrashed, but the hands pulled him deeper. Mia reached for him, but there was nothing to grab. Tom was gone. They searched for hours, but his body never surfaced. The next morning, the lake had frozen over completely. The only thing left behind was a single pale handprint beneath the ice. And if you listen closely at night, you can still hear a faint, wet whisper from beneath the surface.
Help me.
Ethan was walking home from work, the streets empty under the dim glow of flickering streetlights. The snow crunched beneath his boots until he realized there was another set of footsteps. He turned. Nothing. Just an empty, snow-covered road. He took another step. The other footsteps followed. Panic rose in his chest. He walked faster. So did they. He broke into a run. The steps behind him turned into a sprint. But when he reached his doorstep and whirled around, there was no one there. That night, he woke to the sound of footsteps circling his bed. His breath hitched. His eyes darted around the dark room. Then, he saw it. A faint, human-shaped figure standing by his window, watching, smiling. Ethan reached for his phone, but his body wouldn't move. The figure stepped closer, its face still blurry, shifting like static. Then it spoke, a guttural, ice-cold whisper.
You shouldn't have ignored me.
The next morning, Ethan's roommate found him outside in the snow, barefoot, his skin ice-cold. His eyes were frozen open, and on the frost-covered window was a single, perfect handprint. And just as his roommate backed away in horror, the handprint slowly faded. Then came the whisper.
I'm not done yet.
It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway. Daniel and his girlfriend, Rachel, rented a remote cabin deep in the snow-covered woods. The locals warned them about the whispering cabin, but they laughed it off. The first night was silent, too silent. No wind, no animals, just the deafening stillness of the forest. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., a whisper slithered through the room. Daniel shot up, heart pounding. Rachel was still asleep. He crept to the door and peered through the peephole, nothing but white snow. The next night, the whispers returned. Closer, louder, but this time they weren't outside. Rachel bolted upright, her breath ragged. I heard it, inside the cabin. Daniel flicked on the flashlight and scanned the room. The air turned ice cold, their breath visible. Then they saw it, the wooden rocking chair in the corner, slowly rocking on its own. Rachel let out a strangled gasp. The chair stopped and a voice rasped behind them.
You should have stayed.
They turned and saw a figure standing in the doorway, a gaunt, frozen corpse, its lips moving without sound. The door burst open, the wind howling in. When they looked back, the figure was gone. They fled that night. The locals told them later, no one who stayed in that cabin ever made it past the third night. As they drove away, the wind howled through the trees, but beneath it was the sound of faint laughter.